Hey there! Before we dive into today's episode, just a quick reminder, if you're looking for tools, inspiration, or training to multiply disciples right where you are, head over to newgenerations.network. You'll also find a link in our show notes to join the community and connect with others on the same journey. And don't forget, you can listen to the Movement series and all our podcasts wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome, my friend. You're listening to the Movement series, a journey through powerful books that shine light on how ordinary people in every corner of the world are sparking extraordinary movements of the gospel. In this season, we are walking chapter by chapter through Living Fire, a book by my friend Aichi B.R., a story of how God is fanning flames of faith across regions once thought unreachable. These aren't just stories. They're signs of a global movement fueled by obedience, sacrifice, and the Holy Spirit. So, wherever you are, whether you're in the city or the countryside, know this: God is moving and He is inviting you to be part of His story.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive. This is our ongoing exploration we call the Movement series, where we really look closely at the foundations, the strategies, the mindsets behind disciple-making movements, DMMs.
Right. These high multiplication efforts focused on, indigenous leadership, rapid relational growth.
Exactly. And today we're going straight to the beginning of one specific, very influential ministry. We're digging into Chapter 2, Foundations of the Ministry from Living Fire. The author is someone we'll refer to as Aichi.
And our goal here really is to grasp the foundational thinking and, maybe more importantly, the spiritual struggle that launched this whole thing. A ministry aimed at igniting, accelerating, and sustaining these DMMs.
And right from the start, Aichi's vision was incredibly specific, wasn't it? Focused on people groups who had, quite literally, never encountered the gospel message.
Yeah, and that wasn't just like a preference. It was deeply theological for him. He anchors it in Revelation 5.9, this picture of God gathering people, persons from every tribe and language and people and nation. That word, ethnos.
Right, ethnos. It's not just about individuals scattered around, but about ensuring every distinct group, every culture is represented. That really throws the global imbalance into sharp relief.
It does. And Aichi often used this really challenging quote to frame that imbalance. It goes, "No one has the right to hear the gospel twice, while there remains someone who has not heard it once."
Wow, okay. That's provocative. It forces you to ask some hard questions about priorities, doesn't it? Like, how do you even apply that? Stop everything else? Or just allocate resources differently?
It's definitely meant to provoke, to force that question of priority. And if you look at Aichi's context back in 1990, you see why that provocation was so needed.
What was the situation like then?
Well, the churches in his country, they had very little awareness or even interest in cross-cultural missions. Evangelism was all local, focused on places that already had churches, already had access. The idea of crossing cultures.
Yeah.
It just wasn't really on the radar.
So it sounds like the first big shift had to happen within the church culture itself. They had to move from seeing themselves as mission receivers to actively becoming recruiters, trainers, senders.
That's exactly that. They had to become a sending force. And for Aichi personally, this call, it started small. He talks about Acts 1.8, being a witness.
Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria.
Right. But his initial world for that was basically his hometown, maybe a 50, 60-mile radius around it. He was very active, locally preaching, Sunday school, choir, all that.
So grounded in local ministry first, but then came the mission school.
He was one of only 4 young people chosen for this new mission school. And that's where the vision exploded, from local to genuinely cross-cultural. That school was really the crucible for what came next.
Okay, and this next part, this feels like the absolute core of the chapter, the foundation stone, really. At the mission school, Aichi gets this very specific call from God.
Undeniable, yeah. He's told to start the work by focusing specifically on one group, the nearby tribe. That's the pseudonym used in the book.
And his reaction wasn't exactly enthusiastic.
Not at all.
Yeah.
It was the opposite. The book says he struggled a lot with that. He fasted. He prayed for God to change his mind, basically saying, look, I'll go anywhere else, anywhere, just not to those people.
And we need to understand why this wasn't just a mild dislike or unfamiliarity.
No, it was raw. It was trauma. During a war just a few years earlier, members of that nearby tribe had actually killed some of his own extended family members.
Oh, wow.
So he grew up, in his words, not loving them. These were his neighbors, geographically speaking, but they were also the source of immense personal pain and, frankly, bitterness.
So the call to reach the unreached, this big theological mandate, slammed right into his deepest personal wound, his most ingrained prejudice.
Exactly. It's powerful, isn't it? It suggests that maybe the first battle in launching a movement isn't out there, but right inside the leader's own heart, overcoming that hatred, that fear.
That internal surrender had to come first. So how did he get past that? How did he break through? It happened during that mission school prayer week.
It did. During a week of prayer and fasting, God confirmed the call. It was clear, and Aichi finally submitted. But what's fascinating is what he did immediately after.
What was that?
He didn't just wait around. He started acting on it. He began reading the history of the nearby people. He started studying their language.
Just jumped right in.
Yeah, and that act of obedience, that willingness to step into their world, even just through books and study initially, that's what transformed the resistance into a genuine passion, a real burden.
I mean, just imagine the mental effort that took. Sitting down every day to learn about the people associated with such deep family trauma, that's serious obedience.
It really reframes language learning, doesn't it? It's not just academic. It's a spiritual act, an act of learning to love the enemy. And the need, well, it was staring him in the face. This group was, and still is, profoundly unreached.
What were the numbers again? You mentioned them earlier.
At that time, out of maybe 6 or 7 million people in the nearby tribe, they knew of only about 150 believers.
100 of millions.
Yeah, it's less than 0.0025%, practically zero. The urgency was overwhelming. He couldn't just sit on that call.
So, okay, this massive internal barrier crumbles. What did that obedience look like day to day? What were the first practical steps after that breakthrough?
Rigorous language study. That was step 1. He carved out 2 hours every single day, Monday to Friday, just focused on learning the nearby language.
Wow, discipline.
No waiting for the perfect program, just immediate, dedicated effort. And it paid off quickly. Within about 3 months, he could already read, write, and speak it a little bit.
It's fast. It seems like once the spiritual block was gone, the practical learning just flowed, and then came the first real outreach.
Yep. About 6 months after that intense study began, so this is in 1994, he joined 5 others for an internship. They went to a neighboring country where the nearby language was widely spoken.
And this trip itself was significant.
Historically, yes. As far as they knew, it was the very first cross-border gospel outreach from their country, initiated by their own people. A small step, but huge symbolically.
And actually living with a nearby family during that internship, that must have been the real test, the real transformation after all that history.
Oh, completely. It cemented the language skills, sure, deepened the cultural understanding, but the biggest thing, it just shattered any remaining prejudice. He saw them not as a monolithic enemy, but as people. He saw softness and welcoming attitudes.
He saw their humanity.
Yes, and he felt God's love for them specifically. He describes realizing these people don't belong outside God's kingdom. It just clicked on a heart level.
So let's piece together the start of this first ministry phase, about 6 years. It didn't begin with him heading off to some remote location immediately.
No, interestingly, it began right after he graduated. He started teaching at the mission school, sharing what he'd learned. But crucially, he also began engaging directly with nearby people who were living as refugees right there in the capital city.
Using the language skills, the cultural understanding.
Exactly. Putting it all into practice immediately. And those initial efforts, working with the refugees, that led directly to the first churches being planted among the nearby people right there in his own backyard, essentially, and in the eastern part of his country. The movement started close to home, with the very people he once couldn't bear the thought of reaching.
This has been another deep dive in the movement series. And looking at Aichi's story, it's so clear that the foundation wasn't just good theology about reaching the unreached. It was this incredibly personal, costly act of confronting and overcoming deep-seated, even understandable prejudice.
Absolutely. It kind of dismantles the idea that mission needs, some kind of exotic skill set or tons of money. Sometimes, maybe often, it just starts with a simple, obedient willingness to love and engage the people we fear or resent or just don't understand, even if they're right next door.
Which brings us to a final thought, maybe a challenge for you listening. If this massive ministry, focused on reaching the unreached globally, had to begin by the leader confronting his greatest internal prejudice, what's the nearby tribe in your life? What's that internal obstacle, that group, that mindset, that fear you need to confront first before your own mission can truly begin?
Something to definitely reflect on. We hope you'll continue exploring Aichi's story and thinking through these foundations.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you for joining us for this chapter of the Movement series. As we've seen in Living Fire, the kingdom of God doesn't grow through comfort. It grows through courage. And the same Spirit who is moving in these stories is ready to move through you. If your heart is stirred, don't let it stop here. Visit newgenerations.network to get resources, tools, and training. Join the global community walking in this same fire. Link in the show notes. Until next time, keep the fire burning.
Thanks for listening to the Movement series. To find more episodes and explore tools that help you multiply disciples, visit newgenerations.network. And be sure to check the show notes or our bio for a link to join the community. We'd love to connect with you. Finally, subscribe and follow wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. See you next time.